Hello. As a practicing psychologist, I often encounter situations where people experience deep resentment without even realizing that the roots of these feelings lie not so much in the actions of others, but in the workings of their own minds. Surely, each of you has at least once in your life been in a situation where someone's words or actions triggered a painful reaction, even though objectively there was no malicious intent. Let's explore together how this happens and what can be done about it.
Our mind, like a talented artist, is constantly adding to the picture of reality. We don't just passively perceive the world, but actively interpret what's happening through the lens of our personal experiences, beliefs, and emotional state. Imagine you've arranged to meet a friend and they're 15 minutes late without letting you know. At that moment, a variety of thoughts might pop into your head. They don't respect me, they don't care about me, something bad must have happened. Each of these interpretations colors the situation with a specific emotional tone, and if you're prone to anxiety or feelings of insignificance, you'll likely feel resentment, even if the reason for the delay was completely ordinary traffic.
It comes down to our tendency to interpret things. We don't just passively perceive the world. We actively construct it based on our personal experiences, beliefs, and emotional state. Many of these interpretations happen on a subconscious level, automatically influencing our reactions and feelings. Consequently, our reality becomes less a reflection of the external world and more a result of our internal processing of information. Often, we see what we expect to see, confirming our pre-existing notions about the world and people.
Let's imagine this scenario. A colleague doesn't say hello to you in the hallway one morning. That's simply a fact, a neutral event. But then a thought flashes through your mind like lightning. They're ignoring me. Maybe I did something to upset them, or they think badly of me. Why are they acting like that? Could they be jealous of my success? Or did I say something wrong yesterday? A whole swarm of assumptions, negative and worrying, instantly fills your consciousness. And there it is, the interpretation that leads straight to feeling offended. We assign a specific meaning to a neutral action, coloring it with our own fears and insecurities. We jump to conclusions about another person's intentions without any real basis. This interpretation becomes our truth, triggering a cascade of negative emotions. But in reality, things could be completely different. The colleague might have been deep in thought, mulling over an important project or a personal issue. Perhaps they don't see well without their glasses and simply didn't notice you in the morning rush. Or maybe they were hurrying to an important meeting, completely focused on the conversation ahead. There could be many reasons, and none of them necessarily have anything to do with you or any negative feelings towards you. Yet, our mind has already constructed an entire narrative based on guesswork and assumptions. This story makes us feel rejected, misunderstood, or even hurt, and often we start to act based on this fabricated reality, for instance, avoiding the colleague or responding with coldness, which in turn can lead to genuine misunderstandings and strained relationships. It's that simple. A seemingly harmless lack of greeting can set off a whole chain of internal anxieties and distort our perception of the situation. That's precisely why it's so crucial to recognize the difference between a fact and our interpretation, so we don't become prisoners of our own assumptions and create offense where none was intended.
Often, offense is closely tied to our expectations. We unconsciously form idealized scenarios in our minds about how loved ones, colleagues, and even strangers should behave. And when reality doesn't align with these expectations, disappointment arises, which can easily morph into offense. Think about how often you've thought, "He should have understood, she was obligated to consider that." These internal shoulds and ought tos become time bombs in our relationships, ready to explode at any discrepancy.
Let's imagine you're expecting your partner to call you right after an important meeting to tell you how it went. You're already looking forward to the conversation, wanting to share their excitement and hear the results. Maybe you've even cleared your schedule so nothing will interrupt your chat. In your mind, as soon as the meeting ends, you'll see their call pop up on your phone. But in reality, they were very busy after the meeting, and they only managed to call an hour later. The minutes of waiting drag on agonizingly. You start to get nervous, checking your phone more and more often. Inside, anxiety and confusion build up, and then a thought cuts through you like an icy wind. He doesn't even care. If he really cared, he would have found a minute to call. He knows how important this is to me, so I'm not that important to him. He prioritizes his work over me. He simply didn't want to make time for me. This is an interpretation that leads directly to feeling offended. Your expectation wasn't met, and you immediately assign a negative meaning to the event, attributing indifference and a lack of regard for your feelings to your partner. You draw conclusions about their motives based solely on the absence of an immediate call. But what if, in reality, an urgent problem arose after the meeting that required immediate resolution? What if they had to stay behind to discuss important details with colleagues? What if they simply hadn't had a moment to catch their breath and find a quiet place to call? There could be many perfectly valid reasons why they couldn't call sooner. However, influenced by disappointment and your own interpretation, you already feel offended and are perhaps preparing for accusations and a confrontation. This offense, born from an unmet expectation and a negative interpretation, can create completely unnecessary tension in your relationship. After all, the real reasons for the delayed call could be very different and have nothing to do with a lack of care.
Another significant factor is our need for control and predictability, uncertainty, and when other people's behavior doesn't align with our expectations, can trigger feelings of discomfort and even threat. In an attempt to regain a sense of control, we might interpret neutral actions as hostile or dismissive, thereby creating an illusion of offense that allows us to feel right and like victims.
Sometimes, let's be honest with ourselves, offense can serve as an unconscious tool for manipulation. We might use it to evoke guilt in another person and get what we want. Pouting lips, demonstrative silence, these are signals that we hope will make the other person feel guilty and meet our needs. However, this path rarely leads to genuine understanding and often only widens the distance between people. You might fall silent and put on an offended expression when your partner doesn't guess what you wanted for dinner. Your subconscious goal in this is that you want your partner to feel guilty and be more attentive to your needs next time. But what's the reality? Your partner might be confused and not understand what's happening, which ultimately leads to even greater misunderstanding.
Recognizing this tendency of our minds to create offense where none exists is the first and a very important step towards emotional maturity and more harmonious relationships. The next time you feel a pang of offense, try to pause and ask yourself a few questions. What are the facts? What exactly happened or was said? What is my interpretation? What thoughts and feelings arose in me in connection with this? Are there other possible explanations for what happened? Could the other person have been motivated by different reasons? Was there truly malicious intent here? Or is this my own projection? Remember, it often turns out that the person you felt offended by had no idea that their actions might have upset you. And then, just as light dispels shadows, understanding and openness can dissipate unnecessary offenses, making your life and relationships brighter and more joyful.